online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
That was live, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Sweet.
And we're still live.
Sorry, I'm doing the Diaz. Hello and welcome to an all-new UFC on AfterBuzz TV. My name is Daria Berenato, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, as always, Mr. George Hermoza and Mr. Jay Tan. You can find me at DariaB28 on Twitter. You can find George at G Hermoza on Twitter.
No,
and you
start
can
over.
find
They're gonna think it's JG Hermoza.
just G Hermoza, guys. I think they got that. And you can find Jay Tan at JTan716. You can also follow us on youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV. If you guys haven't already subscribed, subscribe now so you can like us, comment, let us know what you guys think. You could also find us on iTunes and SoundCloud.
Tell us how much we don't know.
Tell
Or that
us
we do.
everything we do know.
And don't forget to tweet us using the hashtag ABTVUFC.
Yes.
ABTV, UFC, TKO, or sub early. If you don't finish early, judges will pick on 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. That was a little bit too much Boss Rootin', wasn't it?
Going
off the cuff with the stupid song.
It was slightly boss rootin', but it was very creative. I like that, Jay.
The first two lines made sense at
if
least.
you guys have a better ABC alphabet theme song to
ABTV.
that has to do with MMA and ABTV, let us know. Hashtag ABTV UFC. All right, guys, let's get down to the fights because let's just be honest, there were some good ones. You had Anderson Silva versus Nick Diaz, two guys that are returning off a hiatus. Nick Diaz about 2 years, Anderson Silva about 1 due to his injury. But let's start at the bottom of the card. I'm going to run through the results really quick. We had Ian Uncle Creepy McCall versus John Hands of Stone Lineker, who, by the way, John Lineker didn't make weight for, I think, the 5th time in UFC history. But he was over by 5 pounds nonetheless.
4th time, I believe.
4th,
But
okay.
still, that's a lot, yeah.
Nonetheless, the fight went on. He forfeited 30% of his fight purse to Uncle Creepy, but Lineker came out with the win via unanimous decision. Then we had Ed Short Fuse Herman versus Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson won via TKO in round 1. We had Misha Cupcake Tate versus Sarah McMahon. Misha Tate won via majority decision. There was a draw on that one. And then we had Jordan Young Gun Main versus Thiago Pitbull Alves. Thiago won via TKO in round 2. Tails Latis versus Tim the Barbarian Boach. Tails Latis won via arm triangle. Joe Lozon versus Al Raging Iaquinta. Iaquinta won via TKO round 2. Then we had Tyrone the Chosen One Woodley versus Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin Gastelum was also overweight, but by 9 pounds. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Woodley won via split decision. And then we had Anderson the Spider Silva versus Nick Diaz, and Silva wins via unanimous decision. All right, let's go to the bottom of this main card here because we had some exciting ones.
Yeah, there's a lot of storylines to this show, not the least of which, obviously, was the return of Silva versus Diaz.
Right.
You know, both guys, their hiatuses being kind of representing different points in, or different stages of them at the different stages of their career. The two issues with guys not making weight multiple times. This wasn't a first offense for either guy, unfortunately, and how the UFC is dealing with that. And then you had, let's see, I mean, we've got a split decision that people can talk about, the majority decision and how Misha Tate looked against Sarah McMahon.
We also have some performance bonuses that are interesting. There was a little bit of an argument about that. Fight of the night went to Lates versus Boach, and performance bonuses went to Tails Latis versus Thiago Alves. So
Tails Latis and Thiago Alves.
And Thiago Alves, yep.
I didn't have a problem so much with Thiago Alves, but the Tails Latis double bonus thing I didn't quite understand. Personally, my vote would have been for, definitely would have been Derek Brunson finishing Ed Herman that fast, 36 seconds. Ed wasn't even
Definitely.
in the fight. You know, I thought that should have gotten it. And Ali Quinta in the post-fight conference was complaining about not getting the bonus, and I can kind of understand that as well. You know,
I think he felt that his performance over Joe Lozon was so dominant, and in that he should get a performance bonus.
yeah,
I
especially the way that he finished it. He put out.
he put a beating
Yeah.
on Joe Lozon.
That last
So
flurry.
it definitely was worthy of a performance bonus.
Yeah.
He was. I think he had some drama afterwards because he was upset he didn't get it. He kind of threw some sort of a fit
Yeah.
that we saw on social media afterwards. But anyway, Tails Latest and Thiago Alves did perform, so
Yeah.
I don't have too much of an issue with that. Let's start at the bottom of the card here, and we'll get through the drama. So Ian Uncle Creepy McCall took on John Lineker, who once again, so this is his fourth time missing weight, John Lineker. Dana White has now given him and Kelvin Gastelum the ultimatum of moving up a weight class or not fighting for the UFC.
Yeah.
Obviously, I guess they will both make the smart decision to move up a weight class.
I think the interesting story of this match itself, though, you know, Lineker coming in overweight, but still coming out with unanimous decision, taking what I believe was rounds 2 and 3. First round I gave to Creepy. He got a takedown and was doing some damage from half guard on Lineker, who was on bottom. Lineker did towards the end of the match or the end of that round start to set up a leg lock, but. For the most part, that round was Uncle Creepy's, was Ian McCall's. But Lineker came back. Certainly the second round was great. He threatened twice with guillotines, you know, and looked pretty close, like he was in good position with them, I thought. Was on top at the end of the round. Third round seemed to be more of a stand-up battle with Lineker keeping the second. Ian got bloodied up a little bit. I gave that round to Lineker as well. But, you know, it's tough because there was a lot of hype when Ian came into the UFC about him, you know, rising up the ranks fast. And, of course, there was that kind of false start we had in the four-man flyweight championship tournament against Demetrius Johnson, where I believe the score was announced as Johnson winning. But it was supposed to be, but apparently one of the numbers looked like a 9 when it was supposed to be an 8, something like that.
Right.
And it turned out to be a tie that the judges in the UFC later figured out. So we ended up they ended up rematching that one. And, you know, for as much as, for all the hype that Ian McCall had coming in, you know, his performance or his record in the UFC has not necessarily represented that. And I don't necessarily put that on him so much, but, you know, there's that disconnect, you know? I think hopefully we have yet to see the best from Uncle Creepy.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it was a guy that had a lot of hype behind him and a lot of positive things being said about his performances. And with that hype, we didn't quite get what we wanted. But that being said, I still think he's a great fighter. I still think he's a top contender in that weight class. And I do think that, you know, size could have something to say about it in this fight. Because, you know, a guy like John Lineker that has repetitively not made weight, that says to me he's walking around too heavy.
Yeah.
And that possibly he's built for the next weight class. And that should be where he's more suited. That being said, Ian McCall lost this one fair and square. So... you know, maybe they give him someone lower down in the ranks and build him back up and see what he can do from there. But right now, he's ranked number 3.
Interesting predicament because beating somebody like Ian McCall should pretty much kind of guarantee you a title shot, especially since Demetrius Johnson is without an opponent as we speak.
Definitely.
But John Lineker, it's like, well, you can't put him against him because he's probably going to make weight to begin with.
Yeah,
and
that would be
especially
an
with
issue.
title fights. I mean, non-title fights, I think they give you like 1.5 pounds.
1 pound.
One pound allowance.
On title fights, you can't even be 0.1 pound
Correct.
over. It's got to be at that, you know, limit.
Yeah, it's all or
So-
nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, essentially, it's in a tough predicament where the division itself is kind of like DJ's cleaned it out already. I know they were talking about John Dotson, but I know, 1, he already beat him. 2, he's hurt. So it's like, well, maybe he shouldn't have missed weight. Maybe he would have been getting that next title shot.
Seriously, that's, you know, Lineker did have a lot of promise in terms of being a potential contender, but you've got to prove to make weight. You've got to prove that you can, and that hasn't been the case for a while. So anyway, you know, the thing though with, I mean, Uncle Creepy always comes to fight. He puts on good shows. It just seems like there's something in each match where he's not going for the kill, and subsequently, we see stuff like this. Like it's
Right.
what is it? Victory. Victory grabbed from the jaws of defeat, or vice versa, rather.
Right.
But it's a tough spot for him as well. So who knows what's going to happen with
We'll
125?
see. In the near future, we're going to see some movement in this weight class, I think. So we'll just see how it goes from there. But next on the card, we had Ed Short Fuse Herman versus Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson won via TKO. What did you think of that one?
Quick.
Quick?
Yeah. He rocked Ed Herman with a left that pushed him back against the cage, and he followed up quickly with more shots, and Herman was on the floor. I mean, there's no question about that one.
Right.
So yeah,
There's not really much to say.
I think that.
But the next one, there's plenty to say. We have Miocic Cupcake Tate versus Sarah McMahon. Miocic Tate is number 2 ranked in the bantamweight division. Sarah McMahon number 3.
Yeah.
They both already fought Ronda Rousey, the reigning champ, and lost. Miocic Tate twice, Sarah McMahon once. So this was an interesting matchup because you always wonder. I mean, Ronda Rousey has wiped through the bantamweight division for the most part, except for Kat Zingano at this point.
Yeah.
And you always wonder. You see them how they face up against Rousey. You saw Miocic Tate go 3 rounds. She held her own. She had some good shots on Ronda. She had some reversal takedowns and stuff like that. And then we saw how Sarah McMahon lost to Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
So you wonder how that'll play out in the cage. But interestingly enough, Sarah McMahon gave Miocic Tate a run for her money. In that first round, it was almost over for Miocic Tate, and then
Miocic said in an interview that she got rocked. She was hurting.
Right.
She got dropped early by those 2 rights. Ended up in half guard, and McMahon was on top for a lot of that round. But Miocic was busy on bottom, and it's funny. Much like the McCall and Lineker match, Miocic, in my opinion, lost the first round, but they came back and took the second and third to justify that. Justify her winning. Now, majority decision, guys. If you don't know, so of 3 judges, and I know we've talked about this in the past. Of 3 judges you have here, 1 and 2 give the round to, or give the match to Miocic. The third judge saw it as a draw. So you have 2, as opposed to a split decision where one other judge goes in the way of the opposing fighter. In this case, the judge saw it as a draw, so we just went with majority rules there. The second round was close, but I can see Miocic. I can see how the judges gave it to Miocic, and then the third round was pretty straightforward. She had her on the ground for the most part. Worked towards the end, kind of worked for a crucifix or to get in crucifix position. I mean, it's interesting that she was holding McMahon down, for the second and third a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, Sarah McMahon's an Olympic wrestler.
Exactly.
So for Miocic Tate to try to wrestle, we know Miocic Tate fears no wrestler, fears no ground game other than her own.
Yeah.
We've seen her, go toe-to-toe with Ronda's judo. She didn't give a shit. She still went for the takedowns, still wanted to play the ground game and the cage game. Yeah. So she definitely didn't fear Sarah McMahon's wrestling, but Sarah McMahon has some top-level wrestling. Absolutely. So it was really interesting to see, Miociac's a collegiate wrestler versus Olympic wrestler, how that played out. But I scored it like the other 2 judges. I scored the first round McMahon and the other 2 rounds Miocic Tate. So in the end, Miocic was definitely the winner of that one. But what I'm really excited to see is some movement in this bantamweight division with Ronda Rousey versus Kat Zingano, February 28th. I don't know what you do with Miocic from here. You could give the trilogy match to Miocic Tate, Ronda Rousey, if Ronda Rousey wins versus Kat Zingano, because there really is no one else to put up against Ronda after this. Well,
if Kat dethrones Ronda, then you definitely do, because I mean it's a rematch.
You definitely do Ronda and Miocic.
No, you do Miocic and Kat.
Kat. The last time they fought was in 2013. So yeah, it's definitely been long enough where she deserves that rematch.
I think the fans aren't tired of that one. Like it's a match that makes sense. Then again, I don't know. I mean, the way that they handled Herman and Anderson, Ronda, I would think certainly her dominance could justify an immediate rematch as well.
I mean, who knows how Holly Holm is going to look in her UFC
Yeah.
Holly Holm's a
There's that as
definite possibility. She's making her debut as the co-main event of the February 28th card, but she's still got to build herself to get to the Ronda. I don't think they're. I mean, she's going against Raquel Pennington, who's definitely a serious name in the bantamweight division, but I don't think they'll take her from Raquel Pennington to Ronda Rousey.
They've done it before.
They have, but
in dire circumstances. Though.
Yeah, I think they'll give her one more, and maybe if Ronda Rousey does win versus Kat Zingano, maybe they give Miocic Tate, Holly Holm.
I mean, it just depends. It just depends on the timing.
There.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's really no one else, then why wait? You know, why do the inevitable? Just put them together right now.
We'll see. I don't know. We will see. There's also been some talk about Chris Cyborg coming into the UFC, possibly there being a 145-pound division.
You know, guys, end of February is going to be very interesting. For those that haven't seen the headlines already, so at the end of February, on the 28th, here in Los Angeles, UFC 184. Now, as we've said, Ronda headlining against Kat. The night before that, on Fight Pass, won't bother telling you where to find it. If you haven't figured it out already, then, you know. But Invicta will be doing a show here in Los Angeles as well at the Shrine Auditorium, airing on Fight Pass the day before the UFC. This is kind of a first for these guys in general to piggyback on a UFC event,
right?
And obviously purposely so. Some people, Cyborg, I believe Cyborg is defending her title. She's fighting on that show. Yeah. So there are some rumors going around about a potential announcement being made that weekend. With Cyborg, you know, presuming she wins, I suppose, you know, an announcement possibly of her signing with the UFC. Who knows? I mean, it's just internet speculation at this point. But it is an interesting setup to have these two shows that business-wise are connected back-to-back in the same weekend. Don't be surprised if you just start seeing this again on a more regular basis with Invicta shows. So, you know, there's definitely smoke to that potential fire in terms of Cyborg, yeah.
Definitely. And Invicta is a said feeder to the UFC now. Now that there's two women's divisions in the UFC, the strawweight and the bantamweight division, although they are drawing a lot of girls from Invicta to the UFC. So,
although there is that, I mean, Cyborg's fighting at 45, and there is not a 45 division in the UFC yet.
Right, which makes me think
that factor as well. Is
that the next one to establish? I mean, I would think that or 125. Or maybe 105 to atom weight's a big division. Not
105, I don't think, but 145. I mean, as I think about it here, like we've been going on for the past year or so about Cyborg, whether she can or can't make 35. She's declared that, you know, recently when we talked with her as well at the last RFA late last year, that she can't make 35. So, you know, that I mean, I suppose that's water on those rumors, you know, smoke of those rumors.
Well, just the rumors that she would be coming to the UFC to fight Ronda, not rumors that she might be coming to the UFC in her own weight division.
Yeah, I don't think that the latter would happen. I think that if she signs with the UFC, then that means that the UFC and she has decided and believes that she can make 35 safely, which I think that we probably would know about first before that would happen. Mm-hmm. Then again, who knew about CM Punk? UFC likes to scoop.
Or they could be announcing a new season of The Ultimate Fighter that would be the 145 division, just like they did with the strawweights.
Nah, not that. I know you want that. I know you want.
I'm not speaking from a biased opinion. I'm not a 145er. It has nothing to do with me, but I'm just saying he's obviously trying to establish more weight classes for the women. He said it following the strawweight season that he wasn't done.
Yeah, but I don't think that they would do that before further establishing the strawweight division. I mean, Carla Esparza hasn't even had a title match yet.
But she is set for one against Joanna.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try to say her last name. Yeah. Nope, don't even ask me. All right, guys, let's move on. Next on the card, we have Jordan Young Gun Main versus Thiago Pitbull Alves. This one was going in the favor of Maine for the first round, at least. It was a definitive round. Maine was really touching up Alves on the feet, cornering him against the cage, almost finishing him at the end of the first round. It kind of saved by the bell for Thiago Alves. And then Thiago came back in the second to drop Maine with a body kick. It wasn't even to the liver. It looked like it was to the solar plex. And he keeled over, and he finished him with some punches, and that was it. Round 2 TKO victory for Thiago.
Maine looked really good in the first round, and I dare say some of the second as well.
Right.
You know, nice boxing, great footwork and movement. He had that cool roll away from the cage too in the second round. It did kind of like a 3/4 roll to the side that got him out of being cornered against the cage. But yeah, that kick that Alves caught him with just doubled him over. This reminded me of Scott Smith versus Pete Sell, one for you guys homework to look up as at kind of that last minute. It wasn't a Hail Mary shot by any means. Alves was going for it, but it certainly turned the tables. In the match, and it's one of those MMA Kirk Gibson shots. So it was a good one. It's really interesting. Alves now he finished. He's not in the top 15, but he finished a guy at number 13, and kind of the same scenario with Talis Laidas and Tim Boach that we'll talk about next. Both guys that finish low-level top 15 guys, which they've both Talis Laidas and Thiago Alves. They've both had their title shots in the past. Question is, are we going to see these guys start to, rack up another run for the title, as it were? And I believe
Thiago looked good. I know he had a little health issue a few years ago.
Yeah.
It looks like he's back. It looks like he's back for good. Definitely. I don't want to say chip on the shoulder, but you don't know what this guy's motivation.
Yeah.
Right. No, I think he definitely has something to prove. Like you guys said, he was really up in the running before he had his, medical issues, and now I think he's back, and I think he's definitely going for a run for the title.
I'm sure they would like to. Yeah, and I'm looking here, and it was Talis Laidas that has already has a really strong winning streak here. I don't remember. I feel like it's like 8 matches or so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So that was that match.
Talis Laidas versus Tim the Barbarian Boach. Talis Laidas won via arm triangle. The first round, Boach was really looking good. He had a nice flurry in the beginning. I thought he possibly rocked Laidas, but he hung in there and it continued on. Some amazing big shots by Boach. His striking overall really looked good.
Tim, you can always rely on to bring those great uppercuts. And
he's bulky too. So he's got a lot of strength.
Big boy.
Yeah. It was a fun striking match for the most part for what was there. And Laidas, I think he kind of he got that takedown. I mean, he was getting pretty rocked by Boach. I felt went for that takedown, change up strategy, and
it definitely changed the entire pace of the fight.
Yeah, and it took a little while to get that arm triangle. He didn't have it the first time Boach escaped. But then he was able to position and get it and put Boach out.
Yeah. That was a tight arm triangle. Joe Rogan was like, I think he has the best arm triangle in the game. And I would not disagree with that comment. It was tight. And he had really, I thought he had it the first time. But he got out by a hair, and then he got it right back in. So congratulations to Talis Laidas for an awesome victory.
And $100,000 richer.
Yeah.
That's the real victory.
What's going to be interesting to see is 185. We have been circling around 4 names, I think, for I don't know how long, at least since middle of last year. Vitor Belfort, Lyoto Machida, of course, the champion, Chris Weidman, and I was going to say Anderson, but, we've got also guys like
Luke Rockhold.
Yeah, Luke Rockhold, Jacare, Yoel Romero. Okay, so that's more than 4. But we're in such a stalemate here because, unfortunately, as news broke out, Chris Weidman is out of next month's UFC card. He was scheduled to defend against Vitor Belfort. This is a match that's been rescheduled. I think this is the 3rd time now, or the 3rd time that it's been halted. And we got this bottleneck, So in the meantime, the question is, first question, I suppose, is will the UFC create an interim title? An interim shot.
Hey, they were trying.
Vitor, yeah.
Vitor was calling Dana saying, I want the interim. Give me an interim title shot. And this is weird. It's like, all right, fine. We'll give you one. We'll put you against Lyoto in the interim. Nah, change my mind. No, thanks.
That's what Dana.
How do you say that? How do you say no thank you to that?
That was according to Dana in the post-fight press conference. I think that match obviously would have made sense between the two of them. But I'm afraid that, with this postponement again and again, the title hasn't been defended since was it July last year? It was Weidman and Machida. But it's going to need to, especially with the schedule that the UFC is keeping here, they're going to need these titles in contention on a regular basis, which means that you may need to do an interim title match. And what happens, with those guys, But point being, to bring it back to Bacon here, to see Talis Leitas, work his way up in there, it'll be nice to have some more players, some more chess
blood up
pieces.
there.
Exactly.
Definitely. Yeah, I don't know what you do. I mean, isn't Jacare out as well?
Pneumonia.
Yeah.
But he'll get over that before too long. I think he'll be ready.
That's a fast one.
Yeah,
right.
come back, late spring, maybe early summer or so.
Right. I don't know what you do there, because if you put Lyoto Machida up against Vitor, I mean, if Lyoto Machida wins, do you do a rematch when Weidman comes back?
That's a good question.
Or do you give
Isn't he
Vitor
scheduled
the
to fight
chance
Rockhold?
anyway?
Machida and Rockhold?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that actually, you might be right about that.
Yeah, you
but
are right.
But that would change as well.
It could- yeah, right.
If they need to fill a title spot,
They will take that fight away.
yeah, that match will get moved. I mean, maybe you make number one. I think if Dana's story was was true, that Vitor is declining Machida.
Right.
I think it's just a matter of time before, if the UFC says, well, it's going to be a title match, it's going to be Machida and somebody, Vitor will eventually go for it.
This is Vitor's problem, in my opinion, and this would be my issue as well. I don't blame him for it. He's been waiting for this title shot. He wants this title shot so bad. If he takes the Lyoto Machida fight and, God forbid, loses and doesn't get that title shot that he's been waiting so long for, whereas if he can choose to opt out of it and hang around until Chris Weidman
Yeah, but I think that's
ready,
riskier.
In what sense?
I think that's riskier in terms of securing a title shot.
Because if there's a Lyoto Machida fight it'll be with someone else anyway.
Exactly.
Right,
Right.
right.
If the UFC brass says, well, Vitor said no, so let's just go to the next guy. Who is it? Rockhold. Very good match right there.
Right.
But then, boom, Vitor has been waiting for this whole time and now doesn't get his match at all.
If it comes down to that, I think Vitor is way smarter than that, and he'll take the fight.
I still don't get it, though, because, for example, I want to be champion right now.
Right.
So I don't want to wait. So is he afraid of Machida? Because if that's the case, then if he feels like he can't beat Machida, he's probably not going to beat Weidman either.
Right.
So I don't
absolutely.
get that mentality. I mean, he's ready for the end of the month. Just take the fight.
And that's why I think
You
that
can be
there's
champion.
more to the story about the middleweight title. It hasn't fully
You're
been written
probably
yet.
right.
I mean, Dana White said that he has someone else in mind. I don't think for a title shot, but he has someone else in mind for Vitor ready. He just hasn't said who yet, but I don't know. Maybe we'll find out today or tomorrow.
I'm trying to think who could even be.
Can't be Vitor and Rockhold.
Make your guesses, guys. Let
Yeah,
us know.
guys,
Comment.
ABTV UFC.
Or you
Talk
people
to
on
us.
chat roll.
Yes.
On
Chat
the
roll.
chat roll.
Chat roll.
The roll of the chat.
Is that the
You
comment
got it.
section of YouTube?
I don't know what chat roll means.
Apparently it is.
It's pretty much just when we're going live, it's a sidebar that people can live keep up with you as you guys are talking. So
We have
there's-
live comments?
Yeah, like right now, everybody's talking. Like
I'll be damned.
That's why I was saying, like, did you guys want to hear their opinions?
We do.
Oh, we do.
People are what? We have viewers?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Hey.
We have 6 people watching live right now.
Very cool. What are they saying?
Yeah, who is it?
Joseph Boza.
Hey, what up, Joseph?
We
He's
know
always
you.
commenting. I like
Yeah,
that guy.
So he's here, and he said with John Lineker missing weight and having to move up to the 130s weight class, in my opinion, Demetrius Johnson has to be happy about that.
Really?
Probably. I mean,
I don't know.
Lineker did look good. I mean, he did look like a solid threat. But I guess we'll just never know.
It's a very good point, but I don't know that Demetrius Johnson fears anybody in that weight class.
Agreed. Yeah.
But hey, maybe we'll see.
We have Eric Douglas, Tywin Woodley looked terrible. Excuse me.
Tyrone Woodley looked terrible.
Yeah, we have
We'll
yet to get to that one.
We're gonna get to that. I slightly agree with you.
NYMETS fan 2006.
Sure.
Dana White offered Belfort a Machida fight, but he said no.
Yeah.
Yes, we just.
Again, according to him at the post-fight press conference. But, guys, and saying nothing about what Dana White says, take everything you hear in MMA with a grain of salt the size of a cat lick, usually.
I mean, Dana White's he isn't really known to just kind of blow smoke up people's asses either.
No,
Agreed.
he's a very
Agreed.
straightforward guy. He says it how it is, in my opinion. Almost too straightforward and casual sometimes. So if he says it, hey, I believe it. But I guess we will see what goes on with the Lyoto Machida thing. But next we have Joe Lozon versus Ow, raging Iaquinta. I
Just broke
know
my heart.
you just broke your heart, George. Iaquinta won via TKO round 2. What'd you think?
I mean, it was a good first round. I gave the first round to Lozon, but man, that second round was brutal. Like, it was just so hard. Not even just because I'm a fan of Lozon, but just from being a fan of humanity. Like, Lozon took a beating that should have been stopped around 10 punches before that. I mean, he was having hard time staying still. And again, I know that we were talking about it earlier where, well, I mean, he was still standing. He was still, awake. I mean, I think that's that fighter's mentality. You're not going to, like, hey, no, please call the fight if you can still stand. But, I mean, again, that's the ref's job to kind of say, hey, you're good. You can't take another beating. You're done. But
yeah, I agreed with George on this one. I think it was a slightly late stoppage. When he was on the ground, I thought it could have been called, but he did get back up, wobbly as ever. And, I mean, he was literally just wobbling from side to side of the cage. Some could argue he was walking, but I think he was just getting punched from side to side.
Because you can make that same argument for that one fight, the big fight that has Rufus Sport in trouble. Was it like a kickboxing event?
Jesus, no.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not comparing the two automatically, but the other guy was still standing.
There's a few degrees difference there.
Yeah.
But, well, in this match, Iaquinta versus Joe Lozon, I mean, I have a little bit less issue with the finish, although it was liberal, I will say. Let's talk about the first round. Iaquinta was aggressive early. He came out with really good striking, and Lozon as well. They were trading well, moving around a lot. Lozon, I think in this match, I felt like it took him a little bit of time. I don't think he really turned on until like halfway through the first round. That's when we saw him getting more aggressive and responding more. He had a guillotine choke on Iaquinta very briefly. Good flurry in the very last minute of round 1, and then he came out. He was good in the second round as well. But Al landed this left, then a right, and then flurries for just probably 20-30 seconds or so. Lozon was definitely wobbly. He was on on spaghetti legs, but he was still in it. And Lozon being the tough guy that he is, and you know what? Here's the thing, guys. Next week, we're supposed to have Herb Dean. He's scheduled to come in and talk with us. We can talk about reading a fighter and when you stop a fighter, because Joe is one of those guys that obviously has been in a lot of wars. He's a durable, rugged guy. And the referee, who's reffing it? Mark Goddard. Mark is an experienced ref. He's done a lot of UFCs in many years. I think it's fair to say that he probably knows Joe. Might have refereed some of his previous matches. So you give a guy like Joe Lozon some time to recover, maybe a little bit more liberal than a guy on the undercard that is not as experienced in the UFC.
I agree with all the points you're making, but looking at the actual fight itself, it went too long. There was so much damage done. I mean, it was to the point where Iaquinta was just rocking him. I mean, over and over again. You knew it was over, and it just kept. It was a little too long for me, but that's all I'll say.
Fair enough.
But I gave round 1 to Iaquinta. I know you gave round 1 to Joe Lozon. Joe Lozon wasn't as busy as Iaquinta. He was landing those good, occasional shots, but Iaquinta was busier overall. Yeah. And I think just
the guillotine choke wasn't that much of a threat. I mean,
no,
it was a moment.
It was a very brief moment that was reversed. But I could see giving some credit due for that. But I gave round 1 to Iaquinta, and obviously round 2 when he finished him was a clear draw. But next,
hold on, we have a chat roll question.
Oh, do we have a question?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, it's oh man, I lost it. Oh, would they debut CM Punk, Phil Brooks against Victor Belfort?
Against Vitor?
That'd be funny. That'd be awesome.
That would be funny, wouldn't it?
And new interim champion, CM Punk.
What was it, Jay?
They should debut CM Punk against Vitor Belfort.
Oh gosh, no.
Nobody in any state. You'd have to go out of country for that one.
That was from Joseph.
Joseph, you know better.
Come on.
They were saying though.
Did he
pick
a weight class yet? CM Punk? Did he say where he's going to fight?
Not officially. He should fight at welterweight. Yeah. I don't care what anybody says. He should fight at welterweight.
Some people have been saying that it may be next year before we see him fight, and I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's funny. I was having this conversation at the bar yesterday. My opinion to market this thing correctly is as they're doing now to a certain extent, let the dust settle. Let's stop talking about CM Punk and just let the guy go train. And let's not worry about when we see him this end of this year, early next year. Whenever he decides that he's ready, then let's burn that bridge when we get to it. You know?
I think he's going to fight at the last pay-per-view of the year.
That'd be good timing.
I don't know.
I think his hype has died
usually
for the
a big
moment.
card for that night, you know.
Like
Usually,
the New Year's Eve type.
Yeah.
But who knows if he's going to be ready, you know, quality-wise.
He says he's ready. He sounded ready a couple months ago when he announced it. So.
Actually,
you think
didn't.
so?
Actually,
No.
he didn't sound ready. He said, "You know what? I'm on a scale of 0 to 10. I'm like a -4."
He said that.
Yeah, something to that accent. He's
Like,
"Hey, I'm
he
not
knows
trying to-"
he's not ready.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
He knows it.
give him-
He's like, dude, my jiu-jitsu's okay. My striking is horrible. So that's why I think a lot of that went into play in going to Rufus Sport, knowing that there's such good strikers, you know, and then still kind of going back and forth with Gracie. So yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Do we have an interesting question you want to share?
Joseph has asked another one. My question would be, did Reagan Al's people know that he couldn't win against Joe if it went to the judges?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with their camp. You know, the Sarah Longo camp. I mean, those guys are coming up. I mean,
good jits, yeah,
2-3 years ago. I mean, everybody just thought of Matt Serra, just that guy who beat GSP one time. Now he's turning into having one of the best training camps in the entire all of MMA. So
he's a gym that's been coming up. They've got some really good guys like Eddie Gordon, obviously middleweight champ Chris Weidman, and Ray Janal has been a guy that they've had for quite a while. Matt Serra, of course, black belt, Renzo Gracie, black belt, and Ray Longo, the striking coach there. They've had some great success, and I believe Ray Longo was coaching Matt when he beat GSP. It's off the top of my head. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that's they've been working together for quite a long time. So for Ray Longo to have one of his fighters now be his coach, and for those guys to partner with each other, they're very familiar. They've got the right chemistry, and now they can impart that knowledge and guidance to this new generation of guys that they're bringing up. So Who knows? I mean, I'm sure they had confidence in Al Iaquinta beating Lozon by decision, but I'm sure they're happy about the finish as well.
Yes.
You know?
Let's move on to the co-main and the main because we're running out of time here.
Yeah.
Tyrone, the Chosen One, Woodley defeated Kelvin Gastelum via split decision. This was not the most interesting fight I've ever seen. In my opinion, I'm just going to say that Tyrone Woodley looked super, super defensive. I'm almost going to say scared. Not scared in the sense that he thought he was going to lose, but he was playing so defensively, and I cannot put my finger on why. He was
counter-striking a lot. He was playing the outside against the fence, very close to the fence.
He was playing the outside so much to the point where he put his own back up against the cage. And I understand, like we were saying, circling around and staying on the outside and staying at the end of Kelvin Gastelum's reach. But, I mean, he was so far out that when he wanted to penetrate into to strike, he had to penetrate into strike. He was out of punching range 90% of the time that they were striking.
Yeah.
And I think Kelvin Gastelum has much shorter reach than Tyrone Woodley. So I didn't understand why he was doing that. Maybe because he knows Gastelum has knockout power and, didn't want to fool around with that. But I gave the first round to Kelvin. I gave the second round to Woodley, and I gave the second round to Woodley because of those two right hands. In the third round, I couldn't score. I really don't know.
Yeah. It was not the match that it could have been. That's for sure. And we had a lot of drama and moving pieces going into this. Kelvin weighing in at 9 pounds over. I believe and there's different stories going around in terms of what happened fight week. Before weigh-ins, I believe he was a couple of pounds, just 3 or 4 pounds short of 170. Gastelum was, but then got sick and was sent to the hospital, and they had to give him an IV and fill him up with fluids.
Right.
Now I doubt that they necessarily filled him up with 6 pounds of fluids or so, but I'm sure he was instructed to eat and get full himself on his own. So there was that drama of weighing in so heavy, it was a lot. the drama. I believe there was talk about Woodley, the match getting pulled, and Woodley fighting on another show.
Yeah, well, okay, so Kelvin Gastelum missed weight by 9 pounds.
Yeah.
Tyron Woodley, if you watch the Embedded series, I believe it was episode 4, if you want to go back and take a look, they were following Tyron Woodley, and he went up to Kelvin Gastelum and was like, I'm pissed, dude.
Yeah.
I'm not pissed at you, but I'm pissed at the situation. I just want to let you know that.
Yeah.
And
That was the fight that Cerrone wanted to take. Sorry.
What's that?
No, he wanted it because
He was gonna come in for this one?
Yeah, when word got out that Gastelum was 9 pounds over,
God. Dana
Cerrone
White
was
never
like,
would've let that
Cerrone was like, "Oh, dude, I'm ready. If you need me, I'll be there."
Oh, God.
I think there was also a tweet about him wanting to take, was it Anderson, if Nick didn't show up.
I believe it.
That's earlier in the week.
That would be
But
an awesome
anyway,
fight.
so
Yeah.
I think Woodley let it really get to him personally, and I really think you saw that in the fight. I don't think this Tyrone Woodley was anything like the Tyrone Woodley that we're used to seeing.
And Kelvin as well certainly wasn't. I think that this took steam out of his sail proverbially as well. I
Definitely.
think he was,
Which-
disappointed in himself.
Which was what was to be expected, in my opinion. You know, he was sick, he was throwing up, they said.
Yeah.
The weight issues, not to give him a cop-out, but, I expected him to look not as good. But for Tyron Woodley, a guy that only had advantages in this situation, except for maybe the slight mind game that it played on him, which he allowed it to.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was going to come in affected by it at all. And he came in and he really didn't look himself. I'm curious to know why he was so defensive and why he wasn't putting the pressure on Gastelum. But, I don't know.
We got one more question.
Yeah.
Tyrone Wells, is there any way KG can reunite with Dulce as a personal
Mike Dolce.
Yeah, as a personal nutritionist?
Maybe.
It's so obvious that he needs one, and that's the only thing holding him back because he's so talented, and he
Maybe.
did get sick.
I agree to the extent that he's super talented. He should get this under control. I believe this is the second time that Kelvin Gastelum has missed 170.
In the UFC, right?
He won Ultimate Fighter at 185 last against Uriah Hall in the finals a year or two ago. But I think he's too small for 185. He's too short to really make a serious run. I mean,
But then again, Nick Diaz fought at 185 today.
Yeah, true.
Yesterday.
But Nick is a longer, lankier guy, and even to the height average of 185. That's not the case for Kelvin Gastelum.
He has a weird build, and it would definitely, I agree, it would be a really weird build at 185.
Yeah.
Because he is so short and stocky. But
Yeah. To Tyrone's question, is he? Is that right, Tyrone? Okay. Is Mike Dolce the answer? I don't know. Somebody. I agree. He definitely needs a nutritionist to get down to get his body used to 170 in a safe way. And I think he's one of those guys that would be better off. And I don't know his diet or how he is in the off between matches, but for him to stay as close to 170 as possible between matches, that's probably going to, in the long run, be healthier for him. Because he's a young kid, too, come to think of it.
Kelvin Gastelum is 23 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
he's
So it's
super
not
young.
like, I mean, if you, at that age, if you stay at a certain weight, between 170 to 180 in the off season, between matches, then that less of a cut, you're going to be safer and it's going to be healthier for your body.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, bottom line, he has to lose weight. He doesn't have to cut weight. He has to lose weight. He has to
Yes.
start walking around much lighter than he is because
Yes.
clearly he's cutting from too high, and that's
Yeah.
where the issue occurs. Or he has to switch weight classes and bulk up a little bit.
Yeah.
But we need to get to the main event because we're going to get cut off soon. Anderson the Spider Silva makes his return versus Nick Diaz. We were all expecting this to be fireworks, and boy, was it.
Yeah.
Nick Diaz started the fight with his antics, as always, laying on the ground, putting his back on the cage, putting his hands down,
talking trash to
talking
Anderson.
trash. This elbow thing he was doing, I don't know what the hell this was.
That was his stance. Yeah, he kept doing that throughout all 5 rounds, throwing his elbow out, just almost like a fight stance that didn't quite make sense, right?
Yeah, I don't understand, but
Yeah.
it worked for him because I thought he did amazing. I really did. He really surprised me.
I thought Anderson did amazing.
Anderson did do amazing. Anderson obviously came out with a unanimous decision. He dominated all 5 rounds, but
I wouldn't say dominated. Like he beat him. I just wouldn't go as far as say dominated.
that's true.
He
That-
controlled it.
Because Nick
owns.
got his shots in. Like
True.
he gave Anderson Silva a lot more than what other guys gave Anderson Silva.
I completely agree. His boxing looked phenomenal, and he was definitely able to get in on Anderson Silva.
The thing that annoyed me about, and I love Nick Diaz. I used to hate him. Now it's kind of like, dude, I really like the guy. Is that I think he tried too much to taunt him. And usually, because Anderson Silva used to do that all the time, but the difference is he would taunt and then attack, a taunt and then attack, as opposed to Nick Diaz. It was just more taunting and then waiting for. But I mean, that's his style. That he tries to kind of get you in there to kind of maybe get you at his length. But I think that's where I think the Nick Diaz is missing. That sets apart him from everyone else. Is he's more about the taunting and just seeing what happens.
In that first round, he out-Andersoned Anderson.
Yes, that is the perfect way to put it, Jay.
Yeah,
I mean,
because he did the same thing that Anderson Silva did on previous fights. He would literally walk and put his back against a cage.
Yeah,
put his hands down. Telling let's go. Laying on the floor.
It really makes me question: had they gone out there, no antics, everything dead serious, like your life was on the line, and fought, who would win? Because Nick Diaz really, really, really took it to Anderson. Like you said, it was not, I take back my wording, it was not at all a domination. It was very close. It was 29-28 every round I scored it, but it wasn't a domination. And I think
it was 5 rounds, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. 5,
well, yeah.
45-50.
45-50, whatever. But I think that Nick Diaz really could have brought more to Anderson Silva had he known it was that close. Because in the last round in his corner, he was like, is it close? Am I winning? Am I losing?
Yeah.
And as he said in the post-fight press conference, he thought he won. He thought he was winning. So
I think Nick says that for every match.
He does say that.
Nate Diaz says the same thing.
I think
not
they
about
could
the
get.
last one.
I think they could get.
He always says that.
Hypothetically, guys, I'm saying they could get knocked out or subbed in the first round, and they would still show up the first round and say, "I won that match." I think.
Yeah, that is true.
It was a really interesting match in 2 of the greats of this era, if not ever, coming back after this long hiatus and seeing what they got. I feel like it was, to your point, I feel like it was a serious match, that both guys were serious. Anderson, we saw more serious than ever.
Very true.
Almost no taunting whatsoever.
Very true.
I think it was a big test. I think he was fighting himself as much as he was fighting Nick.
I agree.
Do I belong here? Do I still have it?
Right.
And Nick took this, in many ways, I think he took this more seriously than any of his previous matches as well. Certainly there was a respect shown to Anderson that we haven't seen.
I've never seen Nick Diaz respect
exactly
the way
from
he
Nick
respected Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
100%.
For the most part, it seemed like it was a kickboxing match, all 5 rounds. I felt Anderson, both guys, nobody looked bad per se.
Diaz was landing those leg kicks, those left leg kicks.
Yeah, and so was Anderson. He was testing out that left leg. That was working.
He had a great body kick in the 3rd round, I think.
Yeah, Anderson was getting through Nick's, kind of arm guard with, headshots.
Right.
Nick was taking it to Anderson. He landed on his face as well. It did die down a little bit in the 2nd and 3rd and 4th round, but this to me was just as fun. I'd say, guys, this match, it wasn't that close, but it was as fun as Jones-Cormier. And to compare the 2 cards overall, I think this one gave you more bang for the buck, more excitement on the undercard, as well as having that fun main event compared to Jones-Cormier, which for the most part was, just the main event.
Right. Well, I think 90% of this main event is the story behind it and the lineage behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, you have 2 guys that have, Anderson Silva's been gone because of injury, but he's also questioned being in the sport altogether recently. He said at the end of his fight that his family asked him to stop fighting after this one, but they also asked him to stop after his last one. He didn't. Yeah. He said, he's got to do what his heart says he's got to do. So that questions, like, are we going to see Anderson Silva again? If so, how soon? Same thing with Nick Diaz. He said, a couple days before my fight, I always think, why the hell am I doing this?
Yeah.
And he's a guy that we never know when he's going to come back. He mentioned in the
Nick doesn't know when he's going to come back.
He doesn't. He mentioned in the interview after with Joe Rogan, he's like, I don't need much to live off of. So it makes you think, are we going to see these 2 fighters again?
I mean, Nick Diaz, I think his last fight was March 16th, 2013.
Yeah.
And then before that, I think his last fight before that was like February of the previous year.
Yep.
Against Carlos Condit.
Yeah.
I mean, usually if he loses, he said it. He said in an interview. He said, I love performing for the fans, being a fighter, but man, I'm just tired of feeling like a loser.
Right.
He's on a 3-fight losing streak. I mean, after a huge dominant performance over BJ Penn a few years ago. And, I mean that if you watch that fight, Nick Diaz versus BJ Penn, you would think that Nick Diaz would have destroyed Anderson Silva. I think
he all but retired
pretty
BJ
much
at that point.
Pretty much, yeah.
But look at the guys he's losing to.
I agree. So I mean, yeah, the level of talent that he's facing. I mean, that's the thing. Nick Diaz, he's not going to fight a lower level guy. He's going to fight, if he comes back again, he's going to fight a top level guy.
And hey, we saw a super fight the weekend of the Super Bowl.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean,
Super Saturday.
That was one of my dream matches back in the day.
Definitely.
I didn't think Nick Diaz would go up to middleweight, but then again, Nick Diaz was just...
He didn't suck, that's for sure.
Yeah.
He definitely didn't suck.
I mean, it kind of intriguing. I'd love to see him against like somebody like Michael Bisping. I think that would be an interesting
Do we have another
fight.
question, Alexis? Oh, no. She's getting ready to wrap us.
Okay. That was code word for shut up, George.
Yeah.
Yes, and a happy birthday to the bantamweight champion today, Rowdy Ronda Rousey. Happy birthday, Ronda.
I think, guys, here's your homework. Go, if you can, go watch that post-fight press conference. I'm sure there's a bunch of links on YouTube or through Fight Pass. Hopefully, the UFC has kept. There was the post-fight press conference, and then in that same meeting, there was a one-on-one. Well, there was a scrum with Anderson Silva. He came late to the post-fight press conference and took questions, and Nick as well. And I guarantee you guys, you've never seen more, introspection and engagement of both of those fighters, who, for the most part, are such enigmas in the sport. You know, their legacy and who they are as characters. You've never seen more exposure of these guys internally as people. It is captivating, absolutely worth watching, and really, it speaks to both of those guys. You get a bit more insight into whether we're going to see them fight again, and if we will, why? If not, why? That was as good as the main event. You know,
I mean, real quick, the emotion of Anderson Silva as soon as they announced him as the winner, like he when I say crying, that is an understatement. He was crying, he was crying, and it was kind of a cool moment. Nick Diaz coming over. Helping him up, saying, seriously, don't cry, so I thought that was a very, very cool moment.
It was a surreal moment in MMA history. I think that's one that we'll look back on forever.
Alexis?
I lied. There was one more question. I missed it.
Talk to us.
It's from Tyrone again.
Tyrone.
Let me scroll back up. Do you think they'll ever make a Silva versus GSP? And would it be worth it, aside from the money, for these two to actually agree to fight?
Oh, GSP and Anderson. Buddy, you got to be clarifying which Silva we're talking about. Might be Joe Silva for all I know.
If anything,
Anderson. There's Vanderlei.
Answer the man's question.
I mentioned it earlier, where it depends what Anderson Silva wants to do. If he wants to fight again, yes, I think it should happen. But I think what we saw, and I was mentioning too, where 2-3 years ago, Anderson Silva, it's not the same guy as today. I think last night was more about, can I still do this?
Yeah.
Can I still, perform? Can I just still fight? Who knows? Maybe he would have had the same emotion had he would have lost.
I see that being like almost like a Pacquiao Mayweather fight. Like, they're both gonna do it.
A little bit too late.
Yeah, that it's gonna be late, and also they're both coming out of retirement to do it. Like, they're both like, let's just give the fans what they want type thing. Like, win, lose, or draw, we know we're both champions.
Because, I got a little annoyed when they were talking how Anderson Silva might get the next title shot. I'm like, I don't even think that's his motivation anymore. He's been there. He's done that.
I don't think it is either. Not at all.
So I think if Anderson Silva were to fight again, or however many fights he has, it'd be those Nick Diaz type super fights, maybe up against the guys who you never think he would fight.
Yeah.
But just kind of, hey, let's just see it happen. So maybe...
Yeah.
I mean, even if GSP comes back, there really isn't much for him to do. I don't know if he ever said he can consistently make. I think he said if he ever makes middleweight, it would be a permanent move. It wouldn't be like a back and forth type of thing. So I mean,
there's a lot of moving pieces. I don't know that I would speculate. I think if anything, Anderson versus GSP would probably be something like what we saw last night, where George does come back, feels confident, and moves up, and it's something that both guys want to do. It is a little bit, past their prime, perhaps, but then again, maybe not for George. I mean, as much of a freaking cyborg as that guy is, and he's had a lot of time off to recuperate.
I
he
think
could come back as good as
they both could make it happen, and I think they both have prime fights left in them. It's just, a matter of their mental state of being or emotionally. You know, do they want it bad enough to put their bodies through all of this pain? You know,
that's what we're seeing with a lot of these guys. The stars from the past 5 years or so now are getting to that point when they go, I'm past my prime, but I'm not done yet. What do I really want to do? Do I want to keep fighting or not?
Right.
And that's something that we're going to see with all fighters. We've seen it with fighters in the past. Same with Randy Couture. After he lost the title to Brock, you know, he wanted only special matches. And, you know, we're going to see that. This is a changing of the guards, guys. And that's part of the sport.
Do you know where I will be February 7th?
No, where will you be, George?
You invited me. You should know where it's going to
No,
be.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I mean, you're the one that's fighting.
I'm fighting?
Oh, God. All right. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Wrap it up. I'm trying to sit there plug your fight and promote you.
I was playing it with you. I was helping you.
No, you weren't. You know, you're not even in the least bit.
Where am I fighting?
I don't know, man. I, as far as I know, it's still at the last place, but you're the one. I don't know, man.
It's not the baseball field.
Okay, guys. I'm fighting next Saturday, less than a week from today, for California Fight League up in Victorville, California, at the Dodge Ram Arena. I will be fighting the sister of my last opponent, so there will be some bitter rivalry there.
And then she's gonna call out the mom.
And then I'm
You better call out the mom.
Oh God! But it'll definitely be a good show. So if you guys are in the area, come and check it out.
Even if you're not in the area, just come. I'm not gonna be in the area, but I'm going.
You don't count.
Joseph, we'll see you there, and Tyrone.
Yeah, man.
But you can find me at G Hermoza though, because you know, is it there?
We did that.
Is it there? My thing? Oh, hold on, right there.
Push back. Alexis,
Whatever.
we know
It's
you're
right
on.
there.
Just
It's right there. My handle, G Hermoza. I'm at 98 followers, so close to 99 that I'm gonna quit Twitter.
Guys, also the University of MMA, March 8th, Sunday, Club Nokia in downtown LA. So if you're in the SoCal area, come through. Tickets are available right now at universityofmma.com. Trust me, as the matchmaker, this one is going to be gangbusters. And Mom, by the way, the Super Bowl, it's football. So just remind Dad that Joe Namath is not going to be playing today.
Okay, guys, and on Jay's U of MMA card, I am on it, which is why it will be so interesting. So make sure you get your tickets from me, not his website.
Go Patriots!
Go Patriots! Enjoy your Super Bowl fun. Be safe, and we will see you not next week, but the week after.
Valentine's.
See you guys later.
The day after Valentine's Day.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.